depression, blah, blah, blah. A lot of it is having a suicide machine strapped to your hip all the fucking time.
I've never thought of it that way.
It's got to up the ante a little bit, right?
Well, certainly. It's the trigger out, literally. It's right there on your hip.
By law, even when you're on your days off, that shit's got to be there.
Ooh. Yeah, I guess. You know, I've never thought about killing myself, so I kind of, when I say I relate, I don't. You know, I've always been of the idea that life will eventually get better, as we talked about before. You know, I've never thought, but I've never had like a mental depression issue that I have friends who clearly have. Mm-hmm. I have friends that had real deep, unquestionable chemical problems, and they cured it through antidepressants. But I've never had that. So I don't understand that thought process, the kill yourself thought process. But I've seen it enough to know that I wouldn't want everybody to have a gun strapped to their hip. I think you're right. I think a lot of people would make that fatal mistake.
Especially, we were talking earlier about being a dude and being 24 and just making really bad snap decisions.
Murder would go up for sure, I think. Or, you know, maybe eventually it would mellow out. And the old adage of a well-armed society is a polite society.
Right.
But there's that expression, I don't remember who made it, but it's that when you, all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
If there's no diplomatic solution available because you're carrying a .44 Magnum in your pocket.
Well, that's my feeling with shit like, you know, I mean, when I was doing the Man Show, one of the writers got a hold of one of those tasers. It was like electric tasers, not the serious cop ones.
A personal
which
one?
I have been hit by one of those serious cop ones, but the personal kind of mail order ones.
Right.
He tased every fucking person in that building, you know? I mean,
how bad was it when he tased you?
It's uncomfortable, but it's, you know...
It's like, ow! Like
yeah, that's what it is. But the point is if you're walking around with pepper spray on your belt, you are going to fucking use that pepper spray at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, most people would.
Yeah.
It's almost the having it that makes you use it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's that kind of thing where that's, you know, I like the idea of people being able to protect themselves. I also feel like you walk around with a gun strapped to your hip long enough, it's coming out at some point. Whereas you and I don't walk around with a gun, so we probably figure out a way other than that to resolve this issue.
Well, it certainly takes a deep responsibility. Like, you have to have a deep understanding of the responsibility that you carry. And you carry it around all the time. This ability to end life like that.
Yeah,
and carrying it everywhere you go.
And anybody who's been out shooting, and I've been out shooting, to feel what a 44 feels like in your hand, and then squeezing off, and just the recoil and everything, it's powerful.
Unbelievable.
Like, you couldn't imagine pointing that at somebody and squeezing the trigger. The people that do that on either side of the badge, the people that do that sort of routinely or cavalierly, you know, the people that do I asked the guy for his wallet and he wouldn't give it to me, so I shot him. It seems insane, because if you've actually gone down to a range and just felt that power and that responsibility and just the recoil, the kickback, and the sort of visceral whatever firing off a few rounds from that 44, you couldn't imagine pointing it at somebody and squeezing that trigger.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Like, I am 100% for people being allowed to possess firearms, but I also am 100% shocked that more firearm deaths and accidents don't happen. If you think of the idea that all these people around us, millions of people around us, can legally have guns, and if they legally have guns, like, how come we're not hearing pow, 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 like guns going off left and right? People are retarded. Like, I'm shocked every time I get on the highway, and I'm amazed that people can go 70 miles an hour a couple of feet away from another thing going 70 miles an hour, and they don't just fucking slam into each other left and right, back and forth. It's a constant maze of accidents.
Yeah, no, I think that same way every time I drive, and I think the same way when I hear that, you know, there's a gun, you know, however many guns are in circulation in the United States, there's
Millions.
basically one for every citizen
Yeah.
that's out there, and we all know about David Arquette or Andy Dick or any other nut job that's out there. You take all the people that are having emotional issues or a little bit off, and all the medication that's out there and all the booze that's out there, and then you mix that with all the guns that are out there. Why do we not step outside of the studio and hear gunfire going off left and right?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing when you think about it. And it's also amazing how many fucking people there are out there that are going through problems that keep it together. There's a lot of people out there, their life is shit and in turmoil, and they still manage to get to work every day, do their fucking job, and pull out of the ashes.
Right.
I mean, we concentrate on the people that just go, fuck this, boom!
Right.
But how many people think about going, fuck this, and make it, and
Right.
figure it out, and then 10 years later, hey, 10 years ago, my life was in a shambles. I was ready to kill myself. Now, look at me. I'm happy, I'm doing great, I've got a family, blah, 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 blah.
Thank God I was thrown out of the police academy. You know, I would have killed myself. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, whatever it is that allows people to pull through. I mean, I'm all for it because I think we're all people. I know that you can handle driving a car, and I know that I can handle driving a car. But I also know that some people are going to drive drunk, fucked up, go 120 miles an hour, slam into other people, and kill people. So if that person exists, should we keep that right from everybody? No, I say no. I say people should be allowed to drive cars until they show that they're a danger driving a car. Unfortunately, there's only one way to do that. You got to fuck up somebody else's time.
Right.
You got to fuck up, and that's the real issue. It's like the amount of actual cars driving in comparison to the amount of fatal accidents is fucking insanely high.
Right.
Insanely high. I mean, the odds of you driving around and not having a fatal accident are pretty fucking sporty.
Right.
They're pretty sporty. But when things do go wrong, people automatically look for the most drastic measure. Like, we got to take guns away from people. We got to pull the guns. We got to Google car everything. No more driving your own car. That's coming, Adam Carolla. And I know you're a car nut. That Google car shit, once they get that down, there's going to be no reason for you to be able to weave in and out of Google cars and make it to work.
Well, you know, I always say we're a bizarre society. Our schools.
Isn't that nuts?
It is nuts. And our schools are failing our kids. And then you turn on the news and they say, new legislation out of Sacramento wanting to ban e-cigarettes. And you're like, sorry, Ethan Hawke, but the point, oh, no, wait. So I'm thinking, oh, Stephen Dorff. The point is this. Get those guys confused. E-cigarettes. Who the fuck cares about e-cigarettes? Now, look, I don't hope that my kids grow up to smoke e-cigarettes, but I don't give a fuck if there's some 45-year-old guy who's trying to get off the bus and is standing outside of his job smoking an e-cigarette, and I walk by and get a little fucking water vapor on my scalp. I'm fine with that. I wouldn't give a shit if everyone smoked an e-cigarette if we could get from 50th in education up into the top 20. I don't know why we have, you know, the worst traffic congestion on the planet and the worst schools in America, and yet every piece of legislation is surrounded about, you know, fast food workers need to start wearing gloves to handle the food back, you know. I don't give a fuck about that. I don't give a fuck about e-cigarettes. I don't know who does. I don't know an individual that has ever been harmed by an e-cigarette. I don't know an individual that's ever been harmed by a guy who works at Taco Bell making his fucking burrito by hand. Everything I've eaten in my entire life that's come from a restaurant, some guy made with his hands. I'm fucking fine. What I don't like is the schools being last. Why that's not an issue, I don't know.
I don't like both. I don't like dudes with dirty hands making my tacos, and I don't like shitty schools.
Right. But to me, if you give me a choice and I'm in Sacramento, I'm going to focus on the schools.
Right.
And when I get that settled, then I'm going to focus on the guy who's picking his nose and making my tequila.
But obviously, the people that are bringing up this e-cigarette thing, it's coming from someone in the health department looking for another thing to do. I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense. It's like some new project to take on. When you look at the actual effects of the secondhand vapor, it's non-existent. There's nothing there. There's no data. There's nothing that shows it's dangerous. The other problem, though, is those big fucking cannons that these dudes are carrying around. People are carrying around these big, giant electric... Like, Brian Redband had one, and he was blowing it in here, and I'm like, I'm breathing in that stuff. Like, that's not the same as, like, one of those blue e-cigs.
Right.
They're all those things are not created equal,
But think about what you're breathing in when a guy's got a leaf blower going in your neighbor's driveway.
Yeah.
And he's just fucking all the shit that's on the ground, all the pesticides, everything, all the pollen, all the dander, and all the shit that is vulcanized rubber and cockroach fecal matter. When that all goes fucking airborne, and now you're taking your dog or your kid for a walk up the street, what do you think that's like? And what's it like when you're walking down a busy sidewalk in, downtown LA and a big municipal bus goes blowing by at 40 miles an hour, and whatever's getting kicked up and coming off of that?
Yep. Well,
I'll take a fucking e-cigarette any day.
Another thing to think about is brake dust. People don't think about brake dust.
Oh, yeah.
Brake dust is real. Everywhere around you, everywhere you go, when you see traffic, you have brake dust that's in the air. People are hitting their brakes. The brakes are disintegrating. It's all over the wheels. Whenever you clean your car, you know this. You clean your wheel and you see all that black powder. Well, that shit's not just stuck to your wheel. It's in the air. And people who live near highways, they're breathing that stuff in all fucking day.
It's, by the way, the biggest manufacturer of brake pads is called Raybestos.
Oh, no, what a terrible name.
I think they were around before asbestos was as bad as it is, but Raybestos. Yeah.
Were they really? They were brake pad manufacturers before asbestos?
Well, no. Before asbestos was... To see whatever it is you want to see at exactly the same time. I mean, you're pissed off.
Yeah.
And my kids are probably going to be walking around at age 25 going, hey man, I want to see Fast and Furious 129, and someone's going to go, well, it doesn't come out for 4 months. Oh, it's such bullshit. Fucking go get it, would you? Put it in my box. I want to watch it on my phone.
And they're watching it in my head.
I want to watch it in my head. I just want to close my eyes. And they go, it's not done. Fuck that. This is such bullshit.
Have you seen this news story that came out today, the picture that Jamie put up earlier, that by 2030, they're going to have mind-to-mind thought talking.
Wow.
And this is something that I've been bringing up for a while, that I think that human beings, like the interface of sounds, like using sounds and even using language, is a temporary thing. I think there's going to come a point in time where you're going to be able to read, like, intent. You're going to be able. I'm going to be able to understand what's going on in your head. The same way when you have thoughts in your head, when you have ideas, you're not doing it with a language. You're not expressing your thoughts to yourself with a language. Very rarely do I say, well, it's about time to pull yourself by your bootstraps and get back to work. I just have a feeling in my head that represents those words.
Yeah.
And I've had that exact same thing happen to me during, like, heavy-duty psychedelic experiences. I've had something relay information to me in the form of intent instead of in words. I think that ultimately, like, in having experienced it in a psychedelic state, like on dimethyltryptamine or on mushrooms, I think that's probably what you would experience when they figure out this sort of technology. Like, I'll be able to read your intent, and it will be free of language. Like, the signals that are going on inside your mind, you'll be able to distribute those to other people.
All right, so do you know I have to piss really bad?
Do you? Go ahead and piss, man.
I'm kidding. No, it's already incredibly interesting to me that you can take amputees that are cut off at the elbow, strap on, robotic, prosthetic, whatever, and their brain is able to tell it, to pick up a grape lightly enough not to squash it, or pick up a pencil hard enough to hold it in their hand, and which fingers and digits to move just from the brain to a severed limb, and get that thing to function. I mean, obviously, that's your brain communicating with something without language. And to me, the leap between making your brain communicate with animatronic digits that are moving around and unscrewing mayonnaise jars or picking up pencils or holding your child. That's not a very big leap.
Not at all.
To get from moving that hand around using your thought versus communicating that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's all the lawyers?
That's what it is. It's all the lawyers. I've not studied the Tesla that closely, but the motor is connected to the wheel. There's no transmission that it's passing through, propeller shaft and differentials and things that are scrubbing off inertia.
Have you fucked with those at all, Teslas?
I just drove one around once, and they're quick.
Yeah.
I mean, they're super quick.
They're really, my friend Aubrey has one. They have a laptop in the middle of it, like essentially.
Yeah.
Like it's huge. And he goes, we were going to this gym. He said the name of the gym, navigate to, and it just takes you there. I'm like, this is fucking insane. Like it finds it on Google Maps, gives you the option, you press a button, and this huge navigation screen. When you wanted to listen to music, he's like, play The Doors. So all of a sudden, Spotify pulls up all these options for The Doors, break on through to the other side, press that one, boom, and it starts playing. And it gets it all through the actual computer itself on the car, not even connected to your phone. It's completely independent. All of it uses some sort of unfortunately, 3G, not 4G connection.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. This is going to be a rough transition, but seeing as how I have to go do my podcast pretty quick, on the topic of podcasts, I'm being sued.
Yes.
And
explain that to people, because it's one of the dumbest fucking lawsuits I've ever heard in my life, but there's people that make a living off of these types of lawsuits, right? They're
called patent trolls that buy up patents, and they're lawyers, and it's sort of, I think it's this country at its worst. I really do. They buy patents, and then they sue companies saying they're stealing or unlawfully using their technology.
And sometimes when you're buying technology, there's a real good argument to that. Like, that technology is a part of this thing that you're selling, and without that technology, which is patented, your technology, what you're selling, would not exist.
Right.
And I get that part. And I support innovation, and people should be paid for intellectual property and creative ideas, but this is a weird one. What is the exact term that they have a patent on? The exact...
They have a patent on a playlist.
Yes.
So,
online. Anything in a serial order, right?
Right.
Like even blogs.
I evidently anything that comes out on a Monday and then the next one comes out on a Tuesday, or this song is above that song and this song's number 3 and that song's number 7, that's what they claim to have dominion over.
So if you have a blog and you enter into that blog, like, blog entry number 1, Adam goes to do podcasts to talk about this lawsuit, they could sue you for that. Like, they own a piece of that, a serialized message that you're putting on a website.
Yes.
Numbered message.
That's correct.
That's insane.
Well, it is insane, because if it's true, then really everything on the internet's got to go away.
Everything. Could you imagine if they bought up everything on the internet with one sneaky move? Like, one sneaky move, one patent. What if the judge says, look, the guy's got a point. He owns everything in serialized form.
Well, the problem is I don't think the judge or the jury is going to think they have a point. Unfortunately, in order to make our point that they don't have a point, it's going to cost $1.5 million.
Shit. Yeah. Holy shit.